Today's topic will be how to develop a skill. A lot of drills that we demonstrate on our YouTube channel, they're not combat drills, but what they are focused on is how to actually develop that skill to a subconscious level, basically to create a muscle memory. A lot of people cannot process that correctly, and we receiving a comment, oh, that's too complicated, so you don't have time to apply that in an actual combat situation or in a gunfight. It's not meant to be. When you're developing a skill, you focus exactly on that, to develop a specific skill. You do that in a very comfortable environment, very isolated environment. Why? You need your entire focus on the elements that you need to perfect. That's the intent of that particular training session.
When we face a complex activity that requires different skill sets, we call these domains. The first step is to separate and identify them. For example, when we look at combat efficiency with a firearm, we can define one complementary domain, that's physical fitness, a complete methodology on its own, and alongside it, three core domains of equal importance: reactive shooting marksmanship, the technicality to control the firearm at combat speed, tactical knowledge, and mindset and awareness. Each domain contains advanced skills, which are the result of combining and applying multiple core skills in a synergetic way. Each core skill can then be broken down into smaller training pieces, what we call primitives. Tiny, isolated drills designed to be practiced until they're automatic. Primitives are the key. They allow us to internalize a skill on a subconscious level. That means to perform it correctly without having to think about it. Between every layer of this hierarchy, there is a phase of synergy. It is in these synergy processes that skills are connected and integrated. And when performance breaks down, the root of the problem can usually be found either in the primitives or in one of those synergy layers. Let's go back to the combat efficiency with a firearm model. Each of the domains, reactive marksmanship, tactics, and mindset, contains both core skills and advanced skills, advanced blends of multiple core abilities. But to build them to the subconscious level, you must dedicate time of mindful repetitions focused on the primitives. The primitive is a small isolated segment of a larger skill. For example, simply reaching for the gun in the holster, one micro skill of the entire draw stroke. This integration framework is the foundation of reactive shooting science.
The algorithm to develop a skill. First of all, you need to have the image of that particular skill. What does it mean? You need to know all the necessary sub-steps and how it feels when you apply those steps in the correct manner. And because we're talking about shooting, I will give you an example with a pistol draw. If you have the luxury to include your control hand into the equation, do it. But if that our hand is occupied with something else, with higher priorities, you will proceed with the steps. But the idea is at the beginning, learn that skill in its essence, in its optimal version, and then you can adapt. Once you have that skill in your subconscious mind, it's way much easier to adapt based on the complication of the situation. So different steps of that particular skill, both hands start to move together, how the shooting hand establish the first contact with the gun, how to draw the gun from the holster, how to connect both hands, how much pressure to apply with your shooting hand, how much pressure to apply with your control hand, when to touch, prep the trigger, and when to break that shot, how it feels like when you do that correctly, how to isolate the trigger properly. All these elements are super important for that particular skill and requires a high level of awareness. And that's the second element that we will address. Every single individual repetition needs to be as close to perfection as you can with a high level of awareness. If you're not aware, you cannot define if the quality of that particular repetition was to that high standard. You're controlling each and every repetition with your conscious mind. Every single time when you're learning a new skill, we control that with our conscious mind. We need to do the repetitions slowly first, so we'll give the chance to the brain to process all the required elements. If you apply every single element of that particular skill as close to perfection as you can. At the moment that you get acclimated to that particular skill and get used to it, through repetitions and repetitions and repetition, you start to internalize that skill. That means to move the execution and control of that process from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind. Why that is so important?
When we talk about practical shooting, we are dealing with a complex activity that consists of many interconnected skill domains, as we already mentioned. If you rely on the conscious mind to control all the technical elements that must work in synergy, the more complex the action becomes, the more some of these elements will begin to degrade. The reason is simple. The conscious mind can focus on only one process at a time. The true multitasker is the subconscious mind. It can manage up to millions of processes simultaneously. Through mindful repetitions, we do not actually develop muscle memory, as many instructors like to say, because muscles themselves have no memory. What we truly develop are new neural pathways and then refine them. A neuron, a nerve cell, connects to another neuron through a process called synapses, using wire-like extensions called axons. The neural signal is an electrical impulse. If we want to improve the speed and efficiency of this signal, we need the equivalent of insulated wiring so the impulse doesn't leak. In our neural system, the insulator is a fatty substance called myelin. The thicker the myelin sheet, the faster and the more reliable the signal becomes, and the deeper the skill is embedded into the subconscious. Scientific studies show that the process of myelination becomes more effective when the trainee focuses on very short segments of a specific skill, practicing them through dedicated repetitions with a high level of awareness and genuine intent to improve. By concentrating on these micro drills, what we call primitives, we create an automated correct response. Perfecting multiple primitives and integrating them into core skills is what allows us to progress efficiently and building a high-level performance. For example, ability to present the gun efficiently and execute a clean trigger press correctly in a high-stress situations.
When you're learning something, we always using our conscious mind, and a conscious mind is our intellect and logic. So the language of the conscious mind is facts, empirical data. The subconscious mind doesn't understand that language. The language of the subconscious mind, it's visual analogies, sensations, tales, symbols. Our normal daily life behavior actually is defined by our subconscious mind. That's why subconscious mind is so powerful. We're using one very efficient tool here in TPC, that's the mental analogies or the visualizations. At the moment that you link the sensation and feeling of something that you do with the gun to something that it's already familiar to the subconscious mind from daily life activities, the subconscious mind will take over and will engage the muscle groups and tendons that are necessary to be involved in the process, and that will lead to efficiency of execution of that particular skill. It's very important what you give the subconscious mind to consume, how you feed the subconscious mind in order to achieve a high quality of a particular skill. Once you achieve that level of subconscious competence and that skill is already ingrained in your subconscious mind, now you focus on efficiency.
Isolation of tension means recruiting only the specific muscles and tendons necessary for the movement while keeping the rest of the body relaxed. Applying the right amount of effort, the Goldilocks zone of force conserves energy, improves endurance, and increases technical efficiency. On the mental side, it shows up as composed focus during intense action. That calmness helps the brain take in and process more environmental detail, which is often described simply as being in the zone.
You don't force speed, you achieve speed through efficiency.
Accuracy describes a single correct outcome, pulling the trigger while maintaining the clean sight picture so the shot goes where intended. Precision describes repeatability, the ability to perform the same motor pattern reliably and produce predictable results. Think of a fully automated production line. Each station performs the same task the same way every cycle, producing identical parts. Competence in shooting lives in such precision. You might hit the target by 10 different methods, but true skill is the ability to reproduce one efficient method at speed and get the same result every time. In short, your level of competence is defined more by precision than by occasional accuracy.
At the very end, we'll address the speed.
Some training systems prioritize speed first and then attempt to refine precision. The issue with this approach is that without a solid foundation, there is nothing meaningful to accelerate. It's like learning to play a guitar. You must first learn to strike the correct notes and chords, and only then can you work on playing them faster. A common problem for trainees is that they improve to a certain level and then they hit a plateau. How do you break through? Once a skill has been correctly developed and integrated in a subconscious level, properly myelinated, it's time to invert the practice model and intentionally prioritize speed on the point of self-induced error. There is no danger to damage the skill in doing this once the fundamentals are solid. The mistakes you make under push speed are diagnostic. They reveal the weak links you must correct. To make this concrete, imagine standing on a flat edge near a high cliff. That flat spot represents your current comfort zone, the speed and performance level you reliably sustain. The closer you push yourself to the cliff's edge, the closer you get to your true maximum speed. Pushing beyond the edge produces mistakes. In shooting, those mistakes usually mean missed shots that could be fatal in a real gunfight. The sharp rocks below are the consequence of failure. Now imagine instead that the cliff drops into an ocean. If you fall, the water cushions you. This is the range, a safe environment where mistakes cost training time, not lives. Use it to deliberately push past your limits. A mistake is not a failure if you can identify a problematic element and know how to fix it. Repeat the problematic element at the new speed until it becomes reliable. Over time, you will be able to produce the desired result repeatedly at that fastest tempo. Your comfort zone expands and your new speed becomes the new normal. Repeat the process to keep progressing. When it's time to perform for real, however, you will probably not get a second chance. That's why in live operations, you must operate inside your comfort zone to avoid fatal errors. Mental pressure can make the shooter cautious and underutilize their potential, leaving space for the opponent to seize the initiative and dominate by speed. In a gunfight, hesitation can cost lives. Don't give your opponent the initiative. Deploy your full capability while keeping one key rule in mind. Don't exceed your true maximum. Real mastery is operating consistently in the 95 to 98% band of your maximum speed, what we call the golden band of performance. Staying in that band under pressure is the hallmark of true skill. Your training routine needs two complementary modes: progression and consolidation. Progression sessions intentionally push limits to expand capability while preserving accuracy. Consolidation sessions polish consistency so you can reliably operate within your golden band. A useful ratio is 3:1. 3 units of time spent progressing, months, weeks, or days, depending on your plan, to 1 unit focused on consistent performance. If you're preparing for a specific event, for example a practical shooting match, switch to consistency work at least 1 month before the event. At that point, there is no benefit to chasing higher speed. Instead, build confidence through reliable, accurate performance. In short, build the foundation carefully, then use safe, deliberate, overspeed work to expose and fix weak links. After expanding the edge of your capability, spend time locking in consistency so you can bring your best to the real world and keep yourself comfortably inside the golden band when it matters most. Then repeat the progress while climbing the ladder.
If you like the video, visit the online training page on our website or check the calendar section to sign up for our in-person courses. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.